My history with Sotterley began years ago, I'd say 4 to 5 years ago. I worked some security details there during the Quilt and Needlework show. And it was at that time, just generally patrolling the grounds at Sotterley, when oftentimes I'd get a sense that somebody else was there with me, somebody was behind me when I was walking around checking the buildings and what have you. During that time, I remember on one evening, it was just after midnight, and I was checking the back of the mansion itself, and I actually snapped a photograph through the window where the grandfather clock is, in that stairwell. And it could be a reflection in the glass, but it looks as if a female wearing a dress from the period of the 1800s was coming down the steps towards the actual dining room area. Talking with Carolyn during that time frame, Carolyn told me a lot of stories of things that happened to her while she was there. Different things that she would see, different things that she would feel, and that of course piqued my interest and intrigued me to want to go to Sotterley and do a full-blown investigation. So I contacted Carolyn last year about setting up an investigation at Sotterley based on a lot of the volunteers, a lot of the employees that work there, and bring their stories, if you will, to life. Let the public see and hear things that are going on at Sotterley.
Most excited about was prior to investigating the Sotterley house, Frank and I went down there and met with Carolyn to get kind of a personal tour of Sotterley, as well as get an idea of what stories were associated with the location and some of the specific areas in the house that we would want to focus on due to those stories. Now, as Frank and I were walking into the building, we went into the kitchen area and then through the front hallway that runs along the front of the house. And as we were going through that hallway coming into the dining room, I started feeling like there was something there. And for those that have never experienced, to me it kind of feels like a cold chill along the back of your neck, but it lasts longer than a cold chill. It stays there with you, and you just have that feeling like something's right there with you. I didn't say anything, but Frank pretty much turned around immediately and gave me that look.
As soon as I stepped across that threshold, you could feel this overwhelming sense in the back of your neck, the top of your head. It was a tingly feeling that we associate in the paranormal field as an encounter with a spirit or a ghost or a manifestation, if you will. And I'm not saying we didn't see anything, but it was an overwhelming feeling as soon as we walked through, which led us to believe that there was in fact activity present in the house at that time.
Well, our team arrived and we got a pretty in-depth tour of the building and the grounds. Then we started conducting interviews with the people that we had there on scene that had some stories to share with us. Had some pretty good interviews, some pretty compelling stories, so we were excited about what was ahead of us for the night, what we had in store for us. We started with the standard procedures of taking pictures, taking some stationary camera angles and having the camera set up. We began filming the areas off of the stationary cameras. Then we started taking some footage of the house in general.
My mother, before I was old enough to go to school, I would actually just come with her while she worked, and I would stay in the kitchen that we were just in. And there's a room above that has a bedroom, and I would sleep there sometimes, and then just kind of follow her around as she worked. During that time, I was very young. I wasn't even old enough to go to school then. So I don't have strong recollections of anything then, except I just remember that I would not look at the grandfather clock that sits in the stairway. I couldn't tell you why.
On the second floor, near the grandfather clock, I was helping the team set up cameras in the plater room, and I was standing next to a doorway of one of the bedrooms, and I felt like something was touching me in my right side. And I looked around and I didn't see anything, and I kind of backed up and it felt like it was going deeper into me. So then I stepped away and I didn't feel it anymore.
You know, when I saw the lights flashing on and off and I heard the footsteps, I was just curious. I had no fear, no apprehension. It didn't seem scary at all. I believe those actions were caused by a ghost because there was a visible presence that walked across that area, and the lights were switching on and off in such widely spaced parts of the house. I don't know how any individual could transport themselves between those areas in that amount of time. I have no idea. I'm a person that has kind of a scientific kind of basis. I don't necessarily believe in ghosts. I just had that experience, and I mean, I've heard a lot of just bits and pieces of things, people hearing voices, no real stories. And my parents worked there for many years, and I just think they just flat out didn't believe in ghosts, so I never heard anything from them. So my mother always said you had to be more worried about the living than any ghosts.